Hello, my name is Seanna Albert, and I'm here to talk about Hopi agriculture, featuring dry farming and natural spring irrigation by Seanna Albert. Next. Before I get started on my presentation, I would like to introduce myself. My name is Seanna Albert. I am half Hopi and half Navajo. I am attending school at Tohono O'odham Community College, pursuing my associate's degree in science and life science. I am a mother to 3 boys. I financially take care of my kids. With my career as a journeyman, pipe fitter, structural welder. Next slide. Agriculture is very important to me as I am Hopi and I was raised on farming and gardening as a way of life for the Hopi. As you can see on the map to the right-hand side, Hopi is the red part on the map here of Arizona. It's located on the northeastern part of Arizona. The landscaping out here is sandy with clay and loam soil. It's a semi-arid climate. We receive about 6 to 10 inches of annual rainfall. The landscaping has desert shrubs and grasses. As you can see, the picture on the left-hand side it's very sandy out there. This is 6 inches deep from the topsoil that I had dug. So like I had said before, that 6 to 10 inches of annual rainfall. And the biggest question to my presentation today is, has change in climate affect Hopi farmers and gardeners? Next slide. To answer that question, yes. Climate change has affected our environment in many ways. As I go through my slide, I will talk about things and that has affected our climate. But with Hopi agriculture, Hopi farming, our biggest resource for farming is our faith. We have strong faith in the environment. We have strong faith in our culture, and farming is surrounded, it revolves around our culture. And so as long as we keep our faith, we know that we will still get a harvest. And that's one of the most important things. When my father, my uncles, my brothers go out and they plant their seeds for the year down in the fields, we all hold strong faith that we will get a good harvest that year. Throughout the entire time that the plants are growing, my uncles and my dad, myself, my sister, will go down there and we'll talk to the plants because they're just like family. And so that's really important. So traditional dry land farming on Hopi, this is present day here. As you can see, present day, we have more modern technology, which we use tractors. Tractors are kind of more so just to turn the soil a little bit, to pull the weeds out so that it's not so much manual labor. But when it does come to farming, we still do practice all the same practices that we have done for hundreds of years. And it just works. It just works for us. And these are the techniques that have been passed on for generations. The techniques that we use here is planting in groups. Like as you can see the picture on the right-hand side, that's my brother at one of my dad's fields. You can see that the plants are planted in groups and they're spread apart. And then as the growing season goes on, my brothers, my uncle, my dad will go down to the fields and they'll pull all the weeds out so that they're not pulling from the water, because whatever moisture is in that soil, they want it to go to the plants. So all of this is done by hand. Same thing with We don't have any type of pesticides, herbicides, or irrigation. This is all done just with what nutrients and what moisture is in the soil. That's what is growing our plants. These seeds that are put into the ground are planted anywhere from 6 to 10 inches, just depending on the snowfall and the rainfall that year. Even if it was a dry season that year, we still have faith and we will still plant. My dad will plant every single year, whether it's, whether the soil's a lot more dry than it was the year before, or we got a lot more moisture. You will see him out there every year planting. And that's because, like I said, agriculture lies heavily in our culture, and we still have the faith that we will get a good harvest. So that's a little bit on our dry farming here. A couple of things that we have also that a lot of the farmers have noticed out on their fields is that there's a lot more pests that are kind of coming up. So there's been a lot more daily maintenance on having to pull the pest out of the plants, and just always keeping up with making sure that it doesn't kill off the plant or anything like that. And then also just daily care of, because it is a really windy climate out there. So we do get a lot of wind, sandstorms. So it's very desert-like terrain out there. And so the way that the men take care of the plants to keep from the plants falling over or, getting blown over by the wind. We use cans, we recycle cans, and we'll set cans around the plants to keep them up. And then also there's been, we've noticed that there's a lot of wildlife out there. One of the biggest things that I think the wildlife is kind of coming towards the plants is because of like lack of vegetation in other areas. There's not as much fruit and natural fruit just growing like there used to be. So I think a lot of the wildlife come more to the fields now to get their hydration, also to find something to eat. So we've been, my uncles and brother have had to actually camp out down below and to try to protect the fields. So there's definitely been some changes, and I think with changes, we just find ways to adjust. So next slide. So for the men, they practice the dry farming down in the fields, and the women will practice irrigated farming, or they have irrigated gardens closer to the village compared to the fields, which are more of a distance from the village. As here in this slide here, you can see a picture of Hopevilla. That's the village that I'm from. It's up on Third Mesa on Hopi land. As you can see where all the housing is at, that's the top of the mesa. But when you look towards the top of the picture, there's like a darker shading there. There's a change in elevation there. So that's the dark area is the bottom of the mesa. I have a couple of pictures in my next couple of slides that is, I don't know if you can see, there's like a little pink marker there. That's where one of the trees is at that I had taken pictures of. Next slide. And here are pictures of the top of the mesa. So you can see where the house is at on the left-hand side. And you can definitely see that drop in elevation where the bottom of the mesa is at. The bottom of the mesa is where the gardens are at for the women. There is also a natural spring down at the bottom of the mesa, which obtains its water from rainfall and from snowfall. All of the water goes down and it gets collected down at the spring. Here's a picture of a Hopi apricot tree that's next to my grandmother's house. This is her apricot tree. This is a dry farm tree. This tree does not get irrigated. The only irrigation that this tree gets is from snow and rainfall. And this tree has been here for quite a while. I want to say at least a good 100 years. Very low maintenance on this tree. I think this tree has had some light pruning to it. Other than that, it's just, like, it's just kind of grown naturally. There's not much that's really done to it. Next slide. So this is a picture of the bottom of the mesa. As you can see that these are all the fields or the gardens that are down at the bottom of the mesa. And then on the very top left-hand side, that is a zoomed in picture of a Hopi peach tree that's down at my aunt's field. That tree it does grow fruit, but it doesn't really, the harvest is not as well as we would like it to be. And as you can see, there's a little green neon dot down kind of towards the bottom of where all these garden plots are. And that's where that tree lives. Next slide. So here is pictures of the, I guess you would say, man-made irrigation system that waters all the gardens down at the bottom of the spring. The spring itself is like it's a sacred place, so I felt that I didn't want to take a picture of it. But with climate change, the levels on the water has definitely gone down, just because there's not as much rainfall as what we used to have. There's not as much snow every year. It seems like there's less and less. So the water levels have definitely dropped a lot. With that being said, the women have came together and decided that they were going to irrigate their gardens on a schedule. So everyone's still able to irrigate, but they're trying to preserve as much of the water as they can. So I know that my aunt, for example, she has a little plot down there, and she has decided that she was going to try different techniques to try to get more of a better harvest. She's spread out her plants a little bit more. She's done some crop rotation. She's thinned out her plants. Like, she's just trying different things and trying to see what will help. And as you can see in that the previous picture before, her plot was the very last plot out of all the gardens. So she's the furthest away from the spring, but she still gets a lot of harvest. She grows corn down there. She has her peach tree. She grows different varieties of chili. She's got beans down there. And I think she had carrots one year and onions. So she has a variety of different things that she grows down in her garden, and they all of her plants come up. So which is really good, and like it's really nice to see. But as you can see that the irrigation line here on the very far left-hand picture, so the water comes out of the spring that's right behind me. Those are my feet right there, and behind me is where the spring is at. So the way that you open up this water line is by removing clothing and rocks. That's how all the gardens are. That's how you open up all the little plots. And you just kind of follow the water line here, and you open up and you close all the plots to all the other gardens, and you just kind of walk the water line until it gets to my aunt's plot, and then you open up her plot so that the water goes it only feeds to her garden. So it's like a very simple system, but it's something that has been around for hundreds of years, and it works for us, and it's all natural, so we continue to use it. The picture in the middle there is both both of these pictures, the very far left and then the picture in the middle, those are more kind of I want to say like renovated in a sense. The limestone that's used in the irrigation line, after water keeps rubbing against it, eventually it kind of like breaks apart. And so this irrigation line does have to be maintained here and there. So every so often we'll work on little parts of it just to make sure that it's maintained, but it's mostly put together with slate rock and limestone and just mud from sand and water mixed together. And so you can see on the very far right hand side, this is inside of her garden, and you can see the like how she kind of separates the plots there. She puts like she separates her plots into different sections, and she'll open them up, like she sets a rock and like maybe a pair of jeans, and that's what she uses to open and close those plots. And once they are full, she'll close them up, and then it's kind of, and then also there's someone up on the top where I'm basically standing on the very far left hand side. You kind of yell out to her and say like, are you ready for the water? And she's like, yeah, I'm ready, down at the very bottom where her garden is at. And when her garden's almost full, then she'll yell out to you, stop, stop. And so it's an old method that still works, and so pretty sure it will be around for another 100 more years. So and that's next slide. And that is pretty much a little bit very like basic explanation of the type of agriculture that we have on Hopi land. Majority of the agriculture out there is dry farming. Some of the villages are blessed and have natural springs, like the village that I am from, and we're able to have these irrigated gardens that we have now. So yeah, but dry farming is definitely most popular. There's definitely been a decline in the amount of people that still have fields and still plant, but we're trying to preserve that, and we're trying to make sure that our kids are learning about it and that we're still passing it on, because this is a part of our culture and it's very important to us. So thank you very much for your time, and I hope that you found something insightful from my presentation today. Thank you.